Quando Rondo, an artist who is very closely tied to YoungBoy. So there was actual collaboration.
Yeah, a working relationship.
Right, there was a working relationship. Yet, just months later, that exact same industry proximity would help ignite a real-world blood feud. And this ultimately resulted in the tragic shooting death of 26-year-old King Von.
Turn into a casualty so quickly. Today, we are looking at the profoundly tragic intersection of modern drill music and real-world violence. Specific oddity, or was it fundamentally an intensely personal street feud fueled by intimate disrespect and ego?
Right.
I will argue that the structural demands of the drill music ecosystem, where authenticity and clout are literal currency, push these artists into a fatal escalation.
And I will argue that deeply blood feud.
Okay, so to understand the collision here, you have to understand the machinery building the roads. Both King Von and NBA YoungBoy were molded by an industry that requires the literal monetization of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just background context, it's their actual origin story. I mean, NBA YoungBoy wrote his foundational 20 while sitting behind bars awaiting trial for incredibly serious charges. The streaming platforms and record labels didn't just passively accept this background, they actively marketed it.
Well, they marketed authenticity. I mean, that's always been a staple of hip hop, hasn't it?
True, but drill music takes it way further. The algorithm demands a constant escalation of that authenticity, which is why the tension between Von and YoungBoy didn't start with a targeted YoungBoy on Instagram Live, accusing him of having cap in his raps. And, for clarity, capping means lying.
Right.
In drill, accusing someone of capping isn't just a basic insult. It is a direct attack on their market value. Von was challenging the authenticity of the genre's biggest star to basically absorb his audience and establish himself as the premier voice of the streets. He was playing the industry game perfectly.
Yeah, see, I come at it from a different way entirely. I agree the industry thrives on controversy, sure, but you're describing standard rap beef.
You don't think this was standard?
Not at all. What happened between King Von and NBA YoungBoy bypassed standard industry posturing entirely. It became lethal because of hyper-personal, intimate disrespect. Let's look at the specific escalation in August 2020.
Okay.
If Von just wanted to absorb YoungBoy's audience, he could have hopped in the booth, written a traditional diss track, and just boosted his Billboard metrics.
But a traditional diss track doesn't break the internet anymore. I mean, we both know that.
Maybe not, but what Von did crossed a very, very specific line. He brought YoungBoy's child's mother, Jenya, to a studio session. He sparked rumors of a sex tape. He even threatened to use a naked photo of her as the cover art for an upcoming release.
Wow. Yeah.
And YoungBoy retaliated by bringing Von's ex-girlfriend, Asian Doll, to his home.
Which, to be fair, generated millions of impressions.
But at what cost? I mean, this isn't marketing anymore. This crossed the line from performative rap beef into what is unequivocally known in street culture as injuries. It guarantees a violent, non-musical response.
It escalates it immediately.
Exactly. It ceases to be about proving who has the best street narrative. That cemented a deeply personal blood feud that had absolutely nothing to do with record sales, Spotify algorithms, or chart positions.
I hear that. And you might hear that and think, well, they made it personal, so the music industry is totally absolved. But we have to look at why it got personal in the first place.
Okay.
Let's go back to that early 2020 working relationship. Lil Durk, who was the head of Von's label, Only the Family, OTF, featured on the track Safest on Quando Rondo's album. So how do we get from a collaborative track to literal killing talk?
That's the question.
Drill music basically functions as an arms race. And the only acceptable currency in this specific arms race is absolute terrifying authenticity.
Wait, but an arms race implies a strategic, calculated buildup for a competitive advantage, right? The weapons you're talking about are shock value and lyrical threats. Threatening a baby mother completely obliterates the arms race analogy.
No, it doesn't obliterate the analogy at all. It is the nuclear option within it. Think about the mechanics of the attention economy here. Von was incredibly talented, a brilliant, visceral storyteller, but he was operating in a hyper-competitive, saturated space.
Sure.
YoungBoy's style of pain music had massive, undeniable gravity, so once Von established his own dominance, he had to manufacture a conflict with the apex predator of the genre.
But bringing families into it?
He deliberately dragged their personal lives into the public sphere because the ecosystem rewards it. A standard diss track gets you a headline on a blog, but bringing your rival's ex to a studio session, that gets you endless reaction videos on YouTube, massive spikes in Instagram followers, and immediate placement on every major hip-hop playlist.
I see the financial logic, but
the industry essentially hands you a blank check and says, go further. It was a marketing strategy that utilized real-world risk as its promotional engine.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Leveraging the mother of someone's child is not a marketing strategy because the inevitable outcome is a physical confrontation that you might not actually survive.
Right, but they feel invincible within the brand.
Let's talk about the specific dynamics of where they actually come from. YoungBoy is from Baton Rouge. Von is from Chicago. When Von's sister, Kayla B, is publicly tweeting about seeing a sex tape, and Von is bragging about his rival's baby mother in posthumous releases, that isn't brand building.
You don't think it builds a persona?
No, that is a deliberate attempt to humiliate a man on a deeply personal level. The industry didn't force Von to cross that specific line. The algorithm didn't write those tweets. His own ego did.
Yeah, but you cannot separate the ego from the brand. They're deeply intertwined. I mean, King Von's entire persona, the whole reason Crazy Story went triple platinum and songs like Why He Told resonated so deeply was because he was celebrated as O-Block's trusted narrator.
Right, Parkway Gardens.
Exactly. For our listeners, O-Block refers to Parkway Gardens in Chicago, which is arguably the most notorious block in modern drill history. To be its narrator means you are carrying the weight of decades of real gang history.
Which is heavy.
Very heavy. Von didn't just rap, he vividly narrated ambushes, shootouts, and street retaliation. He was living the exact persona his fans demanded. And that is exactly what makes the transition from digital posturing to physical violence so inevitable.
Which brings us to the fatal night in Atlanta on November 6, 2020.
Exactly. Digital pressure cookers inevitably seek a physical release. When you build two brands around the absolute inability to back down, a physical collision isn't just possible, it's strictly required.
You think it was required?
Absolutely. The altercation outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge was an inevitable collision. King Von could not encounter a proxy of NBA YoungBoy, in this case Quando Rondo, and simply walk away. The structural pressure of his brand, the very thing that made him a massive star and enriched his label, demanded that he assert physical dominance in that moment.
Basically performative dominance.
Yes. If O-Block's trusted narrator walks away from a confrontation with a rival camp, the brand collapses entirely.
See, that assumes the physical altercation was a mutual clash of two artists consciously upholding their rap personas. It paints this picture of two gladiators stepping into an arena built by Spotify.
Well, they kind of were.
But when we look at the granular reality of that night, it completely rejects the idea of a calculated clash of brands.
How so? Because the security footage shows a very direct confrontation.
Because of the context of the people involved. Let's look closely at Quando Rondo's interview with Angela Yee for The Breakfast Club. Quando was completely disengaged from any sort of rap battle narrative that night.
Right, he was just leaving the club.
Exactly. He was simply waiting by a $250,000 car, planning to go home and sleep. He stated clearly that he didn't even know there was active tension with Lil Durk or Von's camp. He thought he was just letting a group of individuals walk past him in a parking lot.
But Quando is representing the NBA camp, and Von is representing OTF. They are the walking embodiments of these rival factions. So in the context of their public feud, physical proximity basically guarantees a spark.
A spark implies a mutual ignition, though. What happened in Atlanta was an unprovoked ambush. Quando's exact words were, "Next thing you know, a guy hit me." He described it as an out-of-body experience because it made zero logical sense to him at the time.
Okay, but
Von initiated a chaotic physical assault on a man who was literally just standing there. And Timothy Lil Tim Leaks, who was with Quando, acted in a chaotic split-second moment to protect his friend.
Right.
This was not a calculated narrative moment orchestrated for drill music fans. There were no music video cameras rolling. It was a raw, ego-driven physical assault that ended in a tragic loss of life.
So you're saying